This is the Ioniq 5, Hyundai's first dedicated BEV for the Indian market. It's been launched at the 2023 Auto Expo with a price of Rs 44.95 lakh for the first 500 buyers of the car. It's available in one long-range two-wheel drive guise and across 3 color options and a fully loaded top-spec model with all the bells and whistles that you get with the Ioniq. Now, if you want all the facts and figures, it's as simple as doing a CarWale on your smart device. What's more, if you want to get really involved and find out everything about the Ioniq 5, just download the CarWale app and be a part of the CarWale motorverse. Now, with the facts and figures out of the way, let's come here and do what we came for, which is to explore the Ioniq 5. We're going to do that by telling you 5 things about the brand new Hyundai Ioniq 5. But before we begin, let us start with a segment placement, a kind of position of where the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is in the market. Doing that will give us an idea of what to expect from the car vis-a-vis its rivals. Now, at this price bracket, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 competes with the likes of the BMW X1, Mercedes-Benz GLA, Audi Q3 and the Volvo XC40. This means the car has got to have luxury aspirations, it's got to look nice, got to have a lot of features, got to be fun to drive, and of course give you that special feeling either from driving it or owning it. Now we're here in the cabin of the Ioniq 5 and it almost feels like you're in a kind of sterile environment given the color combinations that Hyundai had used, but it also feels very futuristic. Like the exteriors looking like something that one would imagine as a car design from the future that people thought of in the 1980s and 1990s. This feels exactly the same way. It's a kind of minimalism associated with the way car design is going with EVs. The highlight of the dashboard of this India spec Ioniq 5 is of course these dual digital displays that sit in the middle of the dashboard. This one on the left is of course the infotainment system. This one on the right is an HD quality full digital display for the instrument cluster. Both are very colorful, very informative and kind of lend to the car's very futuristic appearance. Everything looks and feels really nice, worthy of a car in this price range. We're talking about soft touch plastics, leather kind of materials. Of course, it's not leather. Everything that's in the car has been made from either recycled or reconserved environment, and we will put out a list for you of what all has been used, just so that you know that if you are buying this car, you're getting some nice green credentials with it. Now, the overall look and feel, like we said, is minimalism, and this is visible in the large glass area and the low placement of both the screens as well as the steering and the center console. The specialty of the center console, of course, is that it moves back and forth because you don't have a transmission tunnel to deal with. Thus, if you want additional space at the back, all you got to do is just reach for a lever and it moves, giving you additional legroom that you need here. There's of course a nice cubby space there. Now, in terms of headroom and legroom, if I sit in my driving position, I'm getting more than sufficient headroom, more than sufficient shoulder room and a knee room to the minimalist dashboard. In fact, towards the driver's section, there's a little curve here just so that your knees have extra room. And those are nice little touches that help this car stand out among its competition. The second row of the Hyundai Ioniq 5, like we said, is actually really spacious. That's because this car has a 3-meter long wheelbase, making it one of the largest, if not in the segment, among its rivals. And that's because it's not hindered by the design aspects that an ICE has with things like a transmission tunnel and a firewall and things like that. Hyundai has been able to reposition the various elements, liberating a lot of space in the cabin and also giving us a hint of what a future car cabin design will be like. Like the front, this too is trimmed out in the same colors and feels like a very sterile environment, much like what someone would have imagined a car of the future being like in the 80s or 90s, a very retro looking vibe. It of course looks very familiar because there are quite a few design elements that you would look at that would be, that you would say, oh, it's a Hyundai design car, but also feels equally futuristic at the same time due to the various color combinations and placement of elements. Now, shoulder room and headroom here is actually really great, and despite the seat base being high, because you have a large battery pack underneath, and that is something that comes with it being a BEV. Shoulder room is nice. The seat split fold 60/40, and you can even control it electronically on the side here. That allows you to move this passenger seat forward, and both these seats, the seat base, can move back and forward. Now at the back of the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the feature list here includes bottle holders in both the doors, hidden door handles with ambient lighting, rear AC vents mounted on the side for better airflow, and two USB, or rather two regular USB ports and a cubby space. And like we said, the floor is kind of high because there's a battery pack underneath, and that means you're not going to get enough under thigh support. But everything else is pretty good around. We're talking about shoulder room, headroom for 2 or 3 occupants is actually pretty decent here. Now we've checked out the first 2 rows of the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and we're here for another important section of the car, which is the boot. This, of course, being a crossover, comes with a large boot, and more so because Hyundai has based this on a skateboard platform that doesn't have any of the conventional headaches that come associated with an IC powered car. It's of course an auto opening boot. With the boot open, you can see that it's pretty deep and cavernous, and you get a lot of space inside with a decent amount of height to pack everything. But it's not all that much in depth, because if you lift up the cover, you'll notice that the battery pack is right there, and the only space you get is for a tire mobility kit and of course a charging cable. The loading lip is also pretty high. That's because this bumper is large and you have the battery pack underneath. So we are here driving the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and here are some driving impressions. Now off the line, the car feels very sprightly. This of course being an electric car, because you get instant acceleration, you don't feel any of that lag, and it feels very nice and light to drive. There's actually a pretty decent feel from the steering as well, like a nice weight as you pick up speed. One of the things that this car is good for, and if I put it in sport mode, which is that if I gas it, it just takes off like this and picks up a crazy amount of speed. In normal, it's a little more sedate, and you still do get that pushback in your seat experience, but not as much as you would get in the sport mode. Now, surprisingly, it actually rides really nicely on our route here to our test area, and even in our test area, even though the tarmac is pretty smooth outside, it goes over everything really well without like unsettling you. Usually you'd expect electric cars to feel heavy and things like that because of the battery pack and the way it's designed, but this one feels planted. It gives you a kind of sure footing experience. Of course, we'll be able to tell you a lot more once we get more time with the car and take it out into the real world and do some testing with it and give you things like acceleration figures and numbers and stuff. But as a whole, it feels really exciting to drive, and we had been saying right from the start of the video that this car needs to feel aspiring and inspiring and exciting to drive, and I don't think it's lacking in any of that. You saw how the car accelerated in sport mode, you saw how the car accelerated in normal mode, and now here it is in eco mode. Now eco mode is expected to be one of this car's strength, simply because it's an electric car and it will do its best work in heavy bumper to bumper traffic and city roads where you're doing low speed, things like that. And even at 50-60 kilometers an hour, the kind of normal city speeds that you would encounter on a day-to-day basis, it feels really nice to drive. It's quiet, it's refined, there aren't much vibrations. The only thing that I can perceive that's going on is that there's wind noise and tire noise, and that is not a fault of the car, but rather it's a way of things that in the past you had engine noise cancelling out everything else, but now without the engine noise, the electric car, right? So you have a lot more of that coming. I guess maybe going forward in the future, you'd have better refinement in terms of wind and tire noise. You get a good idea of what is going on. This is of course rear wheel drive. So those are our driving impressions of the Hyundai Ioniq 5, our initial driving impressions rather. And now we'll move on to charging and charging facilities. Powering the India spec Ioniq 5 is a 72.6 kWh battery pack mated to a permanent synchronous motor. The powertrain output is 216 bhp and 350 Nm of torque and is channeled to the rear wheels via a single speed transmission. Hyundai has announced an ARAI range of 631 km on a single charge, which by our estimates in real world will stand at about 475 km, giving it ample kilometer munching ability. When we get the car for a longer period, we will put it through CarWale's real world range test and would then be able to tell you how close it is to Hyundai's 631 ARAI claim number. Globally, the Ioniq 5 can be juiced up from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes using an ultra high capacity 350 kWh DC charger. Hyundai themselves have undertaken an ambitious plan to set up charge parks with 150 kWh ultra DC fast chargers and 60 kWh high speed chargers that would give the Ioniq a full charge in 21 minutes and 57 minutes respectively. At the time of making this video, they had announced plans to set up 10 such locations in the calendar year 2023. All Hyundai dealerships will also have full charging facilities. The company will also offer two complimentary home chargers of 3.3 kWh and 11 kWh with one first connect home visit within 15 days of the delivery of the Ioniq 5. A party piece for the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is that it offers a vehicle to load function with two power sockets, one on the outside and one on the inside, and a maximum output of 3.6 kWh. This means you can power a variety of objects using the car, right from charging your cell phone to powering a television or even a microwave oven. Since we are here, let's also look at the features offered on this top of the line model. As a part of the deal, you get climate control, all 4 power seats with recline function for the rear occupants, dual digital HD quality displays, power tailgate, Bluelink connected car technology with over 60 plus features, wireless charger, and a Bose surround sound system with 9 speakers. You also get a comprehensive level 2 ADAS suite with features like various collision warnings, lane assist, cross traffic alert, rear occupant alert, and even a safe exit alert. Here is the complete list of Hyundai SmartSense ADAS suite that's offered with the Ioniq 5. With the Ioniq 5, Hyundai has gone down the road of recycled materials used in various parts of the cabin, thus making it one of the first sustainably built cars in the Indian market. Some of these touches include leather processed using flaxseed oil, headliners and carpets made from extracts of sugarcane and corn, and armrests made from shredded plastic bottles. Then there's the fact that it's an electric car, which means that in a crowd of ICE powered vehicles on the road, you would be polluting way less than the vehicles around you. In the larger scheme of things, this is our first glimpse into how Hyundai would go about producing its vehicles in the future. One look at the design of the Hyundai Ioniq 5 on the outside and it evokes an odd kind of emotion or thought process in people, and that is, like we said, it looks like a car that someone in the late 80s or early 90s would have designed thinking about a car 30-40 years in the future. It has those classic car elements like the squared off bonnet, the sharp roofline, the big flared wheel arches, but when you come closer and start looking at the finer details of the car, it starts to look futuristic and will really stand out in a crowd. Now on the face of the Ioniq 5, one of the big highlights is this strip right here between the bonnet and this large bumper, which has these rectangular full LED headlamps that give the car a really futuristic appearance. This chunky bumper adds to the SUV look, and this is one of the first cars where the Hyundai logo is actually placed on the bonnet, giving it that kind of regal luxury car look. In profile, you can see that the Ioniq 5 gets its kind of traditional SUV lines. This is visible, of course, in the roofline and this really strong shoulder line and these massive 20-inch wheels with this kind of unique design that also has kind of a pixel element in them. This is actually one of the largest wheels that you can get on a Hyundai crossover and gives the car a really imposing stance. Two of the elements that we really liked on the design of this Hyundai Ioniq 5, one is of course these pop-out door handles that give the car a smooth finish when it's in motion or when it's parked, and other is these lines below where you normally get a rub rail, and it gives the car a nice premium look. The rear is where things really get interesting for the exterior design of the Hyundai Ioniq 5. You get this large Ioniq 5 badge in the back, and it sits on a pixelated LED massive light bar that runs the length of the vehicle. The light bar flashes the individual lights when you press the brake and when you're indicating and stuff. There is maybe potential for this in the future to maybe do any kind of signals or show anything like that, and it looks really futuristic when coupled in with the rest of the appearance of the car. The other highlights include this large bumper element at the back. There's no exhaust pipe because this is of course an electric car, and these line like elements with reflectors in them that match the design of what's available on the side. All in all, the design of the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is something unique, and like we said, does it have what it takes to stand out among its rivals because it doesn't have the big badge that they have? Yes, it certainly does, even though looks are subjective. There's no denying the fact that it's a very unique looking car, and if it's unique looking that you're going after, then the Ioniq 5 should definitely be on your list. Our look at the Ioniq 5 has answered the 5 things that we are looking for concerning whether it's a worthy competitor for the entry-level luxury segment. It's got features, performance, space, looks, and of course green credentials, and the looks more so if you want something that stands out in a crowd. The Ioniq 5's core is also its major drawback. Yes, our charging infrastructure is improving with every passing year, but it's still not strong enough to let you use the EV without having to plan out your routes and driving experiences daily. And this is despite the massive theoretical range and Hyundai's very own efforts in adding to the charging infrastructure. So there you have it, 5 things that you should know about the Hyundai Ioniq 5 if you are looking at an entry-level luxury car and want something unique and from a different brand. Like we said earlier, all you got to do is a CarWale on your smart device and you'll get all the details of the Hyundai Ioniq 5. And of course, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the CarWale YouTube channel and hit that bell icon to be notified the instant we put out a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.